Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Raising Cane's studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. Means we're brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Working towards the weekend. Got Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. What do we talk about? What do y'all want to talk about? We got anything to talk about? We got some things to talk about. We were on the practice football field for Lane Kiffin's second workout. LSU has a big conference series coming up this weekend. The Saints are in Paris talking about things. It's Major League Baseball opening day, and all of that is shoved way down the line with the Sweet 16, which starts tonight, because we've got obvious news here in Baton Rouge. Let's get to it with our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
All right. Matt McMahon has been let go at LSU, and Will Wade is coming back to be the head coach at Louisiana State University. There are so many angles to explore on this story. I want to start with the basketball on the floor. Today is a very, very good day, in my opinion, for LSU basketball. Matt McMahon came into adverse circumstances with a good resume, and it did not work. In my opinion, Matt McMahon was not going to work here at LSU. He caught his fair share of awful breaks. There's no question about it. But this job at this school, in this athletic department, in this state, requires some characteristics that Matt never really displayed. You've got to be dynamic. You've got to be a fundraiser. You've got to be a motivator. You've got to inspire this place. You have to do what Skip Bertman did in the 1980s with a program that a lot of people didn't care about. You have to do what Darryl Brown did in the 1980s with a program that a lot of people didn't care about. There are programs on this campus that are going to overshadow you if you let them at LSU with men's basketball. And they all did. Gymnastics massively outdrew LSU men's basketball. LSU women's basketball massively outdrew men's basketball in that same arena. They both won national championships. And I don't think that Matt McMahon was going to be able to capture any sort of emotional pull with this fan base after 4 years. So a move needed to be made if you're talking about winning basketball games at LSU. I believe Matt McMahon will go find a job at a mid-major and he will win games. He won games at Murray State, plenty of them, without Ja Morant. And he recruited Ja Morant and found Ja Morant and developed Ja Morant. He's a good basketball coach, but that's not going to get it done at LSU. You've got to have a vision, and you've got to create energy around that vision at LSU with men's basketball. And Will Wade can and will do that. He's already done it. And so that's why it's a good thing for LSU basketball. And we now move on from the Matt McMahon era, and we move back into another Will Wade era. And that's a very, very good thing for LSU. I don't think anyone in Baton Rouge, in Raleigh, North Carolina, in Lake Charles, Louisiana, nationally, I don't think anybody is sitting up here today suggesting that LSU just hired Mike Krzyzewski. I don't think anybody is going to pick LSU to win the national championship in basketball next year. But the fact of the matter is that the floor at LSU basketball is very, very low. Now, the ceiling in LSU athletics is very, very high. And LSU in men's basketball has not reached anywhere near that for the majority of my lifetime. Got a Final Four, got a couple SEC championships, got a lot of years where nobody cared. And LSU has brought in a guy whose floor is very, very high. LSU basketball's floor, very low. I watched Matt McMahon hit it. I watched Johnny Jones hit it. I watched Trent Johnson hit it. I've seen it. It's low. Will Wade's floor is high. While I'm saying that he's not a guaranteed surefire Final Four coach, you look at his history. At Chattanooga, He went 12-4 in the SoCon his first year, finished second. His second year, they went 22-10, 15-3 in the league. His conference record at Chattanooga for 2 years was 79%. Then he went to VCU, back-to-back 14-4 years in the NCAA tournament in league play for VCU in the A-10. He won at least 25 games in both years, 25 and 26. He won 51 games over 2 years at VCU, and that's what got him the LSU job. You know what he did here? He took over a program that was a disaster. That last year under Johnny Jones was awful. And he immediately went and got Tremont Waters and paired him with Skylar Mays and cobbled that team together. And they went 8-10 in the SEC, but they won 18 games, and they made the NIT, and they beat Louisiana Lafayette. And after that, it was good stuff. They won the SEC the next year, 25-5, 15-2 in league play, 16-2. The next year, the year that COVID happened and they didn't play the NCAA tournament, LSU was 21-10, went 12-6 in the league. The following year, in empty arenas, he built a team that went 19-10, went 11-6 in the league. They lost a game due to COVID. It was the year that all the arenas were empty, but they made the second round of the NCAA tournament. And then the year that he got fired, 22-11, 9-9 in the league, and made the NCAA tournament, which he couldn't coach in because he had been let go. But he won at a 63% clip in conference play. So he steps away from college basketball for a show cause after he gets fired. And then he goes to McNeese, and he went 36-2 in league play and made the tournament both years by winning the Southland tournament. And he won a current tournament game against Clemson. And then NC State, 1 year in, 20-14, makes the tournament with a 10-8 SEC record. He's won everywhere he's been. 8 of the last 9 NCAA tournaments that Will Wade's been coaching, and they've been played. He has been in it. 8 of 9. That's the floor for him. And that's way above the floor for LSU basketball. Another thing that you have here in Will Wade, and he's released a statement for those who missed it, he has a tie to this place that means a lot to him. Louisiana means a lot to him. He's a Tennessean by birth. He went to Clemson for college, but his time at LSU and that time at McNeese ingrained him in Louisiana. He likes it here. He's got a lot of really close relationships here. He knows who to talk to here. And he chose to leave basketball country on Tobacco Road to come to football country / baseball country / gymnastics country / women's basketball country here in Baton Rouge again. After he knew where LSU basketball was on the totem pole here, he came back. That's a big deal. And for those that will say, and it's fair to say, his success at LSU was in a completely different era. His ability to win the SEC was before Bruce Pearl built Auburn into what it was, and before Nate Oates built Alabama into what it was, and before Todd Golden had Florida back on top, before John Calipari had moved to Arkansas and built them up, and then Kentucky is just going to be Kentucky. We'll see if it's with Mark Pope or not. But before all that happened and the SEC was a superpower, that's when he was winning. And oh, by the way, he was the only one paying players, which is not true. But that's you could say completely different era when he had LSU doing the things that they were doing. And that's fair. That's a completely fair thing to say. It was a different era. But I would submit this. Above all else, Will Wade has shown he is adaptive. What do I mean when I say that? Well, he wins at Tennessee Chattanooga. He wins at VCU. He wins at LSU. He wins at McNeese. He did a good job at North Carolina State. Those are all very different jobs. Different levels of mid-majors, different conferences in the majors, different rules, different eras. At LSU, you're talking about a team that he had in 2021 that had Javonte Smart and Trenton Watford and Cam Thomas and Darius Days, and they were an offensive force. They finished 10th in the country in offensive efficiency. He coached to that. He had a great offensive team. They were great on offense. The next season, his team at LSU in 2021-22 was number 4 in the nation in defensive efficiency. That was a team that had Xavier Pinson and Tari Eason and Darius Days, and it had Eric Gaines and Brandon Murray. They went year over year, 10th in the country in offensive efficiency to 4th in the country in defensive efficiency. He coached them both. He adapted. He got players in an era where LSU had trouble getting players. Now, if you want to say that he cheated, fine. If LSU basketball in that era was going to be tied to some programs, and it was going to be Arizona, Kansas, and North Carolina, I'll live. It was the state of college basketball. Will Wade got caught. He deserved to be fired. He deserved the suspend the show cause that he got. It happened. Do I blame him for doing what he did? I don't. That's me. You don't have to share my opinion on that. He was playing the game that everybody else was playing. If you don't think Duke was getting number 1 and number 2 picks every single year by helping him out off to the side, I don't know what to tell you. I didn't care that Will Wade was doing it all. We knew it the whole time he was here. I didn't care. Now that's legal, so throw that in the rearview mirror. But he also coached right at the beginning of the transfer portal, and that's when he got Xavier Pinson, and he got Tari Eason, who became a first-round pick. He played by those rules here at LSU, and certainly did at McNeese, and certainly did at NC State. He knows how to play that game as well. He embraces NIL. When he was at McNeese, with the portal NIL, when a lot of coaches are complaining, and I get why they're complaining. I understand why coaches would complain about the current system. Lane Kiffin's complained about it. Multiple coaches have quit because of it. Nick Saban, Jim Larinaga, Jay Wright. People are like, I'm out of here. Chip Kelly said, I'm not coaching this anymore. I'll go call plays at Ohio State. Will Wade said, look, we'll pay the players. Look, if you want to come to McNeese, play 1 year and transfer to an SEC team or a Big 12 team or an ACC team, that's good for you. That's good for me. He embraces these rules. He's fine with it. He's young. He's been in it for a while. He understands how it's played, and he'll go do it. He's adaptive. He can field great offenses. He can field great defenses. He can play in the transfer portal. He can deal with NIL. He's won at the SoCon and Southland levels. He's won at the ACC and SEC levels. Again, he's been to the Sweet 16 one time, and he didn't even coach him. So no one here is suggesting that LSU is now a top 5 basketball program in the country. But what LSU has done, bringing Will Wade back for men's basketball, raises the floor and brings excitement and opportunity. And it gets this program out of the stepchild status that it has had for the last 4 years. It's a very, very, very good day for LSU men's basketball. There is no question. There are other aspects of this that I want to get into later on in the show, and we will. But this is a very, very good day for LSU men's basketball. Now, I was planning on kind of shifting to football because we like to chop it up. I feel like I'll bump football back a little bit because it's not a super juicy news day. We're going to get to Joe Healy coming up here in 15 minutes talking about the SEC baseball. So what I'll do is I'll stay on LSU men's basketball, but we're not going to talk X's and O's in basketball here. We're going to talk about what this means for LSU's athletic department as a whole, because this is a different era, and LSU men's basketball is going to command some serious resources. What does that mean as we move into a new era of LSU men's basketball? We'll stay on task, stay on target here, and we'll get to that coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Fabry Chevrolet GMC, FabryChevrolet.com, FabryChevrolet.com. They've got incredible deals on trucks, as I have been telling you all month long. Up to $11,000 off Silverados, up to $13,000 off GMC Sierras. If you're looking for financing, 0.0% APR financing on those GMC Sierras. So get on by and see them. They've also got phenomenal SUVs. This is about the time where a lot of folks start to look for a new vehicle. Your end of school is coming up here, and you might have a road trip coming up in the summer, taking the folks to the beach or to see family somewhere where it may be a bit of a hike and you got the kiddos. If you want a Tahoe, want a Suburban, maybe on the GMC side of Yukon or Denali, they've got them there at Fabry Chevrolet GMC on Highway 61 in St. Francisville. It's a quick drive up north from Baton Rouge. Go see them. You'll have an amazing buying experience, great customer service, and you'll get behind that new ride that you have wanted, that you need for that summer road trip coming up. Go see them on Highway 61 in St. Francisville, or check them out online at FabryChevrolet.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Our Thursday show is always brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. I'm going to give you Sean Sagrera's phone number at the end of this read. So if you're looking for the most delicious beef you're going to find anywhere, you're going to need to give Sean a call, get your phone out, and get ready for that. I often think about steaks when I think about Sean and his process up there at Sagrera Farms, because the ribeyes, fillets, are the strips are just incredible. And that's what I think of when I think of prime Angus beef. It's also been a game changer for us in the Palmer house to have that prime ground beef at home. I made burgers on Sunday. They're just better than any burger that I've ever made. I've just been like most of you, just going around the corner and grabbing my ground beef like you do with your normal groceries, and it's just not as good a quality. And the price is the same, and you're getting select or choice beef instead of prime. My wife's a little bit of a picky eater when it comes to meat. She does love a burger though, and these burgers from Sagrera Farms are just phenomenal. So if you're looking to just change the game at your house with tender, flavorful, well-marbled ground beef with those ribeyes, with those chuck roasts, flank steaks, strips, fillets, contact Sean. Give him a call at 225-719-1723, 225-719-1723, and just load your freezer up with the quarter cow, half cow, full cow. If you feel like you may not have enough space for whatever it is that you might want to look for, go in with somebody and just split it. It's an awesome way to do things. We did it for Christmas in the Palmer family. Sagrera Farms, they bring you our Thursday shows each and every week. All right. So I've established in the first segment today that today is a very, very good day in my estimation for LSU basketball. I laid out all the reasons why in that first segment. And it's difficult for you to argue a different point with Will Wade coming to LSU basketball. There is another side to this that I find fascinating and that I don't have as much data to back up. I can back up Will Wade's chops as a head coach with a lot of the stats I just laid out really over the last decade that he's been doing this. This is new and it's interesting, and it's something that I'm going to monitor pretty closely. Here is what I know. Here's what I can lay out that I know. I know that LSU fired Brian Kelly and they owe him $800,000 a month for the next 5 years. I know that. $800,000 a month. I know that right on top of that, they paid Lane Kiffin $95 million, made Blake Baker the highest paid defensive coordinator in the country, upped Charlie Weiss's salary from when they agreed to his terms. Then he thought about going back to Ole Miss. Then they upped it by $500K a year. The two coordinators are making a truckload. I know that the reports are LSU is north of $40 million on this football roster. I know that. I know that LSU in men's basketball has hired a coach who is not going to come here without assurances of the financial resources he needs to build a roster. He knows how to do that. He knows it takes money. He's not coming here unless they told him, you have this amount of money. I know that LSU's women's basketball coach is not going to stand in the corner and let everybody else have their money and she doesn't get hers. And I know that LSU's baseball program is at the top of the sport and is going to need resources to compete in the transfer portal. I know all of these things. I also know that the baseball coach told Glenn Guilbeau of Tiger Rag Magazine just months ago that LSU has to decide how good it wants to be in baseball. I don't know what the books look like exactly. We have reporting that suggests that LSU followed the NCAA lawsuit when it comes to revenue sharing in year one, which we're in year one of revenue sharing. So football got 75%. It's, 17, 18 million. And then men's basketball got 15%. And then women's basketball got 5%. That's about 900,000. And the rest of the sports got 5%. Baseball somewhere in the 300 to 400,000 range. That's the rev share. It's not NIL, the rev share. But every athletic department moving forward has to determine how they want to allocate this revenue sharing. And I've got an 100% pie here, and football's never getting left out in the cold. And it can't. It runs the athletic department. You have to get football right. You have to get it right. You have to create revenue through football. No one can argue that. It's inarguable. You have to do that. Okay, if you're going to give them 75%, I've now got 25%. And I've got Will Wade, Kim Mulkey, and Jay Johnson banging on the table, okay? That is, no matter how you would slice that pie up, it's fascinating. Because I can paint a really clear picture of Jay Johnson and Kim Mulkey tossing championship rings on the table and Matt McMahon kind of sitting back going, okay, I don't know that happened, but I can paint that picture pretty quick, and I can paint a picture of an administration determining how they want to allocate funds. Well, forget that with Will Wade catching a flight from Raleigh to Baton Rouge. Forget it. It ain't happening. So I don't know exactly how this works out. Here's another thing I do know. Verge Osbury came on after further review and talked about, hey, are you going to be the best at everything? And the exact quote out of Verge's mouth was, that would be very expensive. Not like, absolutely, we're going to be awesome at everything. That would be expensive. And it is. And I don't have the answers as to what boosters are committing to what and what revenue sharing looks like in year 2 as opposed to year 1. I just know that it's fascinating. And here's the point that I have suggested time and time again. I know a lot of LSU fans, right? I could go on a fall Saturday and grab 20 LSU fans out of their tailgate and give them 100% to divvy up on rev share. How would you do that? What's important to you? What do you think they should do? And they would all look different. And I look around the Southeastern Conference, and I don't see a lot of athletic programs that are elite at all these across the board. Jimmy made a good point yesterday. Alabama's women's basketball coach left for South Florida. Their baseball program stinks. But their football program is going to get a ton of resources, and their basketball coach damn sure is getting a bunch of resources. Okay. You can pick any. Arkansas's athletic director said at a touchdown club meeting, we're really not equipped to win at football right now. But they brought John Calipari over. How they doing? That Acuff kid looks to be all right. Think he was free? Baseball program, knocking on the door of Omaha every year. I don't know anything about Arkansas's women's basketball team. Couldn't tell you. You look at Florida, and yeah, their basketball program's at the top of the sport. What's football doing? Baseball's not as good as it was 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago. I don't know what's going to happen at LSU. I just know that it's fascinating because never before has the athletic department had to play tug of war like this. Because there's a difference between, hey, I'm the women's basketball coach. I need some new lockers here. I'm talking 15 years ago. Can we allocate some funds to this? Baseball coach, hey, we got to re-up these batting cages. Football, just 5 years. Hey, can we put PlayStations in every locker? These are investments the athletic department used to look at. And is that going to make or break a player coming to you? Maybe, but probably not. Probably not. Probably not the PlayStations. But salaries for players, that matters. Absolutely. And what's the most expensive form of player to pull in? Altogether now, everyone knows it's the transfers. And I'll just kindly slide this over on the desk. I'm not banging the table. I'm not yelling and screaming. I'm just kind of sliding this over. If transfers are the most expensive, I see what football is bringing in transfers. And just run over to LSUsports.net and click the stats page on the baseball tab for this season. Just take a look at that, okay? I'm not making declarative statements, but I think you can look at the lineup day in and day out and look at how the high school recruits that LSU pulled in, that Jay Johnson's had long relationships have been, and how about the guys that they went shopping for? Just tossing it out there. We know what the revenue share was in year 1. We know that football got 17, 18 million. We know that men's basketball got 5, 6 million in rev share. We know, or 3 or 4 in rev share. We know that women's basketball got 900K, and we know that men's baseball got somewhere in the neighborhood 300 or 400,000. The tug of war is real, and you could paint this picture. And again, I'm not giving you right and wrong here. I'm painting a picture, and it's easy to paint the picture of last year. You got Jay Johnson right there. You got Kim Mulkey right there. You got Brian Kelly right there. And you got Matt McMahon right there. I can venture to guess how that discussion's going to go. And if you would run it back with Matt McMahon next year, I can venture to guess how that discussion would go with Kiffin and Jay Johnson and Kim Mulkey and McMahon. Will Wade is not going to have it go that way. So you can work with Nike and you can work with Canes and you can handle that NIL stuff outside, and you've got boosters that are going to help commit funds, and NIL LSU is going to do its work, and LSU will find a way to make sure that its athletes are branded properly and are compensated well. But can you be really, really good at everything? You can look at these 4 coaches as everyone's putting graphics together and everybody's talking about the golden era of LSU sports. You can look at, but resources are finite. And I'm curious to see how everything gets smoothed out. Not telling you they're all going to be great. Not telling you that one's got to go in the dump. That's not what I'm telling you. I'm telling you it's fascinating to have that big of personality in the room where Verge Osbury and this LSU administration is going to have to divvy some things out and figure some things out. And I'm curious to see if they can keep everybody happy. I told you in the first segment, today's a great day for LSU basketball. It's an exciting day for the LSU fan base. I don't know who LSU is going to play in the season opener next year in basketball. That building is going to be damn near full. I can promise you. And that's a change of pace, and it's good. But it does change the dynamics in that athletic department. You have to admit that, right? We'll see how it all goes. Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. We'll talk to Joe Healy from D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Look, this part of the world, you know that you're going to have power outages. Hurricanes come through. Those nasty afternoon storms come through. We even have winter events from time to time. Plus, sometimes power just goes out and we don't have a great reason for it, correct? My wife loves that. Make sure that doesn't happen to you. Boudreaux's Electrical Services can help you out with that. They can get you into that Generac home standby generator. Shop local. Neil and Melissa have been running Boudreaux's Electrical for 40 years. They're local. Their team is local. That's the customer service difference that they give you over the big box store. So if you've made the decision, I'm tired of the power going out. I want to give myself the peace of mind. I work at home. I've got a young child at home. Can't have a 90-degree house in the middle of the summer. We got to have power. Boudreaux's Electrical can make that happen, and they can give you that customer service that makes the difference between them and the big box store. So that's who you need to call. 985-397-1562. It's 985-397-1562, or the Gonzales location, 225-393-89. That is Boudreaux's Electrical.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Let's head out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline, change the tune a little bit here and talk some SEC baseball with Joe Healy from D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team. Of course, you can find him on the Highway to Hoover podcast, as well as Weekend Waypoints every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. He's with us on Thursdays. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I've come to learn that folks around the area where I live here in the Triangle aren't too happy with folks down where you live, Hunt. It seems like there's a little bit of animus there right now. Can't imagine why.
LSU is wearing a lot of black hats these days. I don't know if we are in the college baseball world, but in football and basketball, nobody's putting on a lot of purple and gold outside of LSU. But that's okay with us. We'll keep on chugging along. Let's talk some baseball. Outside of LSU, how concerned should I be that Vanderbilt went to Starkville and was not competitive based on the results of the first series when LSU went to Nashville?
Yeah, I think Vanderbilt should be quite concerned. I think concerned in general about Vanderbilt, and not necessarily because the personnel is poor. I think they've actually done a nice job kind of shoring up some of the stuff. We've talked about this, some of the stuff that has ailed them in the past. They've done a nice job shoring up. The issue now is they're just incredibly injured on the mound. Austin Nye is the big name there, but there's 3 or 4 different relievers that are on the shelf right now, and there's no real timeline for them to return. And so, I like that the offense has improved. I don't know that it's so good, though, that they can survive Vanderbilt having a below-average SEC pitching staff. And right now, when you figure that Connor Fennell's looking at almost 6 ERA, and Austin Nye's on the shelf, and Wyatt Nato is a guy they brought up from the bullpen out of necessity, I think you're looking at a below-average pitching staff, and the lineup is good, but I'm not entirely sure it's that good.
So because LSU lost a series there, how concerned should LSU be about that?
Well, I think that you'll be a little bit insulated from – it kind of depends on how you want to define that. I do think it is one more reason why I think that it adds to the pile of reasons why there's concern about LSU from an on-field standpoint. The good news is, the series losses there from like a resume standpoint aren't necessarily going to be all that hurtful, just because you lose SEC series and the resume stuff is usually not going to be all that effective. Although I say that, and Vanderbilt does sit here with a 170 RPI right now. I don't know that is really something we should read too much into at this stage, but it is worth noting.
It is. Last week, I was really impressed with Texas responding to their series opening loss at Auburn in weird fashion. What can you say about Jim Schlossnagel's Longhorn teams right now?
Yeah, really, really well-rounded. I mean, if you really want to nitpick, it's like their bullpen is a little bit leaky right now. But A, I think there's probably about half the league would say their bullpen's a little leaky right now. And B, and I wrote this in the series preview for they're playing Oklahoma this week, and that's a series of the week, so people can check that out on the site. But I wrote about how I think there's actually a scenario where this is a little bit of a silver lining for Texas, because the starting pitching has been great, and I believe in all three of those guys. I don't think there's anything fake about what we've seen so far. The offense is really well-rounded. I don't know that there's unless it's Aiden Robbins, I don't know that there's necessarily like a first-team all-conference type of guy right there, but they're really good 1 through 9 and have some bench bats they like. And the silver lining I was talking about in the bullpen is that the guys that have kind of filled in the gaps when they've gotten poor performances from some of the veterans have been freshmen, like Sam Cozart, like Michael Winter. Those guys have really stepped up. Brett Crossland is another one. Those guys have really stepped up into the breach for Texas. And so I think there's a scenario where a guy like Thomas Burns, who's got off to a little bit of a rough start, starts throwing strikes a little bit better. I think he's going to eventually do that. I think he will get better as the season goes on. Max Grubbs, other guys like that. I think it sets up Texas to where those freshmen are going to be a lot more prepared come May and June than they would have been otherwise if everything had just been hunky-dory in this Texas bullpen. So everything's kind of coming up Texas right now, because I think that's a scenario where something that is ostensibly bad news could end up being good news by the time it's all said and done.
Kind of an odd series between Georgia and Texas A&M. Bulldogs just crush them with home runs for 2 days, and A&M blows them out in Game 3. Did you learn more good about Georgia or more concern about Texas A&M last weekend?
I think I lean more concerned about Texas A&M, just because I think that it feels like the starting rotation is a little bit bend but don't break. And I just think when you get into SEC play, eventually you will break under the pressure and under the weight of having to get good offenses out week after week. And so I think we knew that Georgia was capable of this. You're right. Two days they just absolutely buried Texas A&M. And the third result was weird, but I don't know, games like that, just especially after you've already won the series, like sometimes it's just hard when games start to get away from you. Like I think it's just human nature that, it's hard to really get up to go ahead and try to come back from a 10-run deficit early. So I don't read too much into that. I'm more concerned about the first 2 games of the series. And in those 2 games, A&M just got outmatched, and they didn't have the horses on the mound. And they're already operating with kind of a thin pitching staff. Like you look at their stat sheet, and it's their starters and then basically 3 bullpen guys they really trust, and that's pretty much it. And it's really early in the season to be that thin on the mound. So that area really, really concerns me for A&M moving forward. I
did not see a pitching rotation matchup for Oklahoma and Texas. Is Cam Johnson pitching today, to your knowledge?
He's not. He's moving to tomorrow, so
Okay.
They moved Mercurius up.
Okay, I was curious about that, having watched those 2 guys pitch in Baton Rouge last week. Like, what do you think that means for Oklahoma?
I think it's good news for their ability to compete on Fridays. You just can't have what Cam Johnson has done the last 2 weekends, especially on Friday. Like, I'm actually okay if you want to keep running him out there on Saturday or in this case Friday, or on Sundays moving forward, because I just think like the arm is too good. And if going in that, hey, we may have to pull the plug in the second inning, if you just know that going in and you want to bet on that lottery ticket hitting twice or 3 times over the course of SEC play, I actually don't mind that. It reminds me a little bit of like Cags at times for Florida, where it was like, there's just going to be a certain number of absolute nightmare starts here that we're going to have to live with, on the bet that he's going to have a couple of times where he gets into the 5th or 6th and he strikes out 12 and he looks kind of dominant. Like, he's going to walk guys. That's just the way it is. So yeah, I think it's good news for Oklahoma that they've moved Cam Johnson off of the pressure spot. Mercurius, I think, is the right guy. I don't love the trend of this rotation in general for Oklahoma. I think this weekend is going to be a really good test for them, because all 3 guys, as I was really getting into the numbers, like all 3 guys have really kind of taken a downturn in SEC play. Mercurius less than the other 2, but still, it's a guy that was so good in non-conference, and his last 2 starts just haven't been quite as good.
Joe Healy's our guest, SEC Extra Team over there at D1 Baseball, Highway to Hoover podcast, and on YouTube, Weekend Waypoints every weekend. Egg Bowl on dirt, Mississippi State in Oxford to take on Ole Miss in a top 20 series. Ole Miss, how do you feel like they could potentially handle themselves at home this weekend?
I think if they can get to Mississippi State starting pitching early and turn these into ugly games, I think they've got a shot. Now, that's no disrespect. I think Hunter Elliott's obviously going to give them a chance on Fridays. And, Mississippi State's going to be a little bit short on the mound this weekend. I assume Ryan McPherson is not going to throw. I've not seen that rotation yet. It might be out there. I've not seen it. But I think that's the goal for Ole Miss is they've got to turn these into kind of ugly slugfest because especially once you get past Hunter Elliott, I don't be wrong. I like their bullpen. But I like Mississippi State's bullpen just as much. I like Mississippi State's rotation more than I like Ole Miss's, especially with Cade Townsend on the shelf. So I think the path for Ole Miss winning this series is you've got to make it offensive. I haven't checked the weather in Oxford, but they need to hope for a warm, blustery weekend where the ball's really flying because I think that gives them the best chance because we've just seen time and again. It happened again in the midweek. Like, they lose a game that the ball's just not – if the ball's not leaving the yard – like they have trouble offensively. If this is a weekend like that, I think they're in for trouble even at home. But if they can get a weekend where they're just feeling it or the wind is helping them out or just the atmosphere in general, that's going to be their path to winning the series is can we turn this into 12-10 baseball games? Because Ole Miss is ready for that kind of party.
Let's talk about Kentucky's pitching staff that's headed to Baton Rouge this weekend. I want to start with Jackson Jelkin, whose numbers are fantastic. What's LSU in for with him?
Yeah, he's going to come at you heavy fastball, and I mean that in two ways. Heavy in terms of heavy usage, like he really is a fastball first pitcher. Probably I haven't looked at the data, but I'd guess probably 80% fastball. And heavy in terms of it is a sinker. Like he wants to create ground balls. He's actually, I've made this comp before, and I can't remember if it was with him or someone else, but he reminds me a little bit of Nate Snead for Tennessee in terms of the velocity is really good, but he's not a huge strikeout guy. He's got some decent strikeout numbers. Some of that's just competition. But when he's at his best, it's early outs on the ground. That's really what he's trying to do. So it's 95, 96. It'll touch 97 or a little bit higher, but it's heavy. It's like a bowling ball sinker type of deal. And then if he gets ahead of you, he's got a pretty nasty slider, but he doesn't really throw it for strikes. And so if you're in a situation where you can work counts a little bit and get him into situations where, his only option is to continue to pound fastballs, you can sit on fastball and have some success. But if you let him get 0-2, 1-2, like he is going to wear you out with that slider. It's just a matter of can he get to those types of counts.
Ben Cleaver had a really nice year for Kentucky last year, and that's a name that I certainly recall from last season. He's got 6 starts this year, but only 18 1/3 innings. He has not recorded an out in the 5th inning yet. What's the story there?
It's a weird one. So there's no injury and I've asked. there is no injury as far as we know or as far as we're being told. I think they just understand that it is a high wire act with him, okay. And he doesn't have a ton of velocity. And I mean that not even in an SEC context. I mean in general. Like the fastball is like 86 miles an hour. And last year there was a feeling. Let me actually back up because I did ask about this. Like there was a feeling even last year among some folks on the staff that what he was doing last year was not sustainable, and he just kind of had a run in SEC play where he was pitching above and beyond what his ability should say that he could do. And so I think they were always a little bit nervous that they'd found a little bit of fool's gold. And I think this year they're just being extra cautious about like, let's let him leave games on positive notes or as positive as we can have it. And there's a reason why his ERA is still only 2.45, 2.46. Yep. So they're taking him out before the big inning happens to him. And I just think they're being extra cautious with him. Now, is that sustainable? Probably not. But they're winning games for the most part now, so I think they're going to continue to ride it. But I just think it's a combination of like what we saw last year probably wasn't totally real, and this year I think there's just a better book on him. I think is probably the real answer there, and they're just being super cautious. It's
interesting. Tigers need at least 2 games this weekend for sure. Joe, we appreciate some time. Enjoy the baseball this weekend.
All right, don't see you, buddy.
Joe Healy, D1 Baseball, SEC Extra Team, Highway to Hoover podcast, and Weekend Waypoints on YouTube every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. All right, we'll take a time out. When we come back, we'll close out the hour next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Gotro's Outdoor Power. Gotro's Outdoor Power. It is Mower Madness right this second. It's Mower Madness over at Gotro's Outdoor Power. 2 locations, Airline Highway, and then in Gonzales as well. Through Friday, you're talking about the best prices they're going to have all year long with Mower Madness. 15% off all Echo products, 15% all DeWalt items are off, and up to 32% off MSRP on all Hustler commercial zero-turn mowers. Up to 32% off MSRP. So get on by. They're going to be raffling off 2 DeWalt 20-volt blowers at each store on tomorrow at the open house. They're going to have some awesome deals going on tomorrow, including some giveaways that they're going to give away, and they'll have some food out there as well. So go by and see them. There's no better time this year to get a zero-turn mower than this week at Gotros Outdoor Power. So if you're looking for one, Airline Highway and in Gonzales, it's Gotros Outdoor Power.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Wrapping up the hour, let me remind you about my friends at the Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com. If you're looking for group or employee benefits for your business, contact the Highland Insurance Group. They're happy to help you. I know there are a couple of carriers, one in particular that's really raised rates the last 3 or 4 years, and if that's been the case for you and just getting untenable, contact the Highland Insurance Group. They're happy to get you a second set of eyeballs on your group and employee benefits. Healthcare can be very cost prohibitive for your business if you need to see a second set of eyes. The Highland Insurance Group, they're online at HighlandIG.com. All right, I want to talk about Zach Yorke here at the end of the hour. I thought he had some really powerful quotes at the end of the ball game on Tuesday. Of course, he's been mired in a bit of a slump, 9 for 42 over a 15-game stretch. That's a 214 average. Had an 0 for 4 with 4 strikeout game back on Friday of last week. Got the day off on Saturday. Came back and hit a couple of home runs on Sunday. And he talked about whether or not that 2-home-run night can maybe right wrongs.
It was a little bit of a sigh of relief, but just happy we won the game and played good baseball. And we had a good team meeting before the game, and just glad we took what we talked about in the locker room onto the field as a team and got the win tonight.
When I hear Zach Yorke talk like that, you got to keep in mind that he is one of the most jovial guys on this roster. He is always a big personality. I see him in the dugout in preseason really making jokes. He's just a big personality. It's why we told you he'd be really a fan favorite moving into this season. And the way he hit early, I mean, it was obvious to see that. But you hear him talk, and you can tell that this is weighing on him a lot. It's a lot of struggles under a lot of pressure. And he gave a long bite here on the mental hurdles that he's going through, and you can kind of hear it in his voice.
A good meeting with Coach, obviously, after Friday night was probably the worst night of my life, or game of my life. And he texted me at 1 a.m. that night and was just like, stay positive. Teammates love you. I love you. Yeah, so, and then I had a good meeting with him the next morning, and he just said, get with our mental strength coach and figure out a way to just stay positive and leave bad at-bats in the past and focus on good ones. So, yeah, I met with our strength coach, Coach Carlene, and got together a good plan. Had lunch with Chief yesterday, which was good. And he's really helpful for me, and yeah, just getting back to positive things, watching my good swings, and not focusing on the bad ones or bad at-bats. So, yeah, just staying positive. I'm pretty hard on myself, so struggling. I wish I could get over some struggles better, but
it's a lot of pressure. It is. And look, that 4 strikeout game that Zach Yorke had back on Friday, I mean, y'all noticed it. Trust me, I got texts about it. He had never had one of those in 182 college games. He was not a big strikeout guy. He's only had a 3 strikeout game once. He's just not a big strikeout guy, and he's fighting it a lot. And it's a lot of pressure, and a lot of these guys are pressing a little bit. And this is a bite that it really stuck out to me. I don't think he's suggesting that the fan base's weight on him is causing him to play poorly. I think he was just using a bit of a metaphor, but it still sounds like pretty powerful language about what he felt when he hit that first home run back on Tuesday, and hopefully that it's a release of some pressure that has been weighing on him for about 3 weeks.
I mean, it definitely is just like however many fans we got watching the game off my back, and my teammates know that I've been pressing a little bit, which I wish I could tell you I wasn't, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm just got to take it day by day, at bat, and keep being positive and keep trying to hit the ball hard.
It's a powerful soundbite. He's telling his teammates know he's pressing. You get the weight of the stadium kind of off his back. This is the way I'm always going to look at it, and there are always going to be people who disagree with me. There are always going to be people who say, if you're playing for my team and you're not playing well, screw you. If you're playing for my team and you're not playing well, I'm booing. If you're not playing well and you're playing for my team, you suck. There's just always going to be a group of people that feel that way. And because of social media and message boards and all of these types of things that now exist, there's more direct access. Players can access that. They can access on their Twitter or Instagram. They can access on Tiger dropping. Like there's access to very, very public yet anonymous criticism. And it's a lot of weight. And there are always people that say, hey, they're getting paid. Just deal with it. And that's fine. Like you can feel however you want. I just don't get it. My opinion is if someone chooses to come play for you, that as a fan, like I'm going to be supportive of that. Now I don't get to sit in the stands anymore, but like I would want my players to feel uplifted when they're not doing well, not just feel like they're taking it from their own fan base. And that's what, it's not an LSU thing. This is just a sports thing. I don't get booing your own team. I don't get just absolutely lashing out on social media. I don't get firing off just mean, derogatory things on Tiger droppings. Like these players see stuff like that, and you can hear it in his voice. And like, it's not my job, and it's not going to be impactful for me to sit here and say, hey guys, can y'all like cool it a little bit? But like, that's what I want to say. I want to say this is a guy who has wanted to play big-time college baseball his whole life. He's got an opportunity for one semester here to play at LSU, and he had a really good start to the year, and he's going through it a little bit. I think LSU fans should be there to pick him up. I think that he should be applauded, and not just because he hit 2 home runs. Like, even if you're going through an 0 for 4, not just people just firing away on the internet. And again, I don't think Zach Yorke is saying the fan base is pressuring me. I think he was using a metaphor of like that weight was lifted a little bit. But this is just Hunt talking. I know what this place can turn into, like almost every other place when guys are struggling. Oh, they're getting paid. This guy stinks. Like, he doesn't. I'm just telling you, I'm not giving up on Zach Yorke. I talked about it on Tuesday. I think he's going to help when this team turns it around. Maybe that started on Tuesday. Maybe he has a rough week in here, but he can hit. And I think he will be part of this. I'm willing to put that out there. We'll see. But I thought those were powerful quotes from back on Tuesday. That's it for Hour 1. We're back with Hour 2 next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
First American Bank and Trust. First American Bank and Trust. FABT.com is the website. Started up in 1910, which was 116 years ago, more properly said. Now they've grown to 25 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana. Bank with someone who's part of your community. Every decision that's made at First American Bank and Trust is made locally in Southeast Louisiana. Not at some call center, New York, Wall Street, Atlanta, Sacramento. No, right here, South Louisiana. So whether you're looking for a commercial loan, you're looking for a personal loan, First American Bank and Trust can absolutely help you out with that. The 25 locations, I mean, they've got the resources that those big national banks have, but they got the community feel that you need. You're going to walk in and see people you know, see people you sit across from the aisle at pew at church with. It's First American Bank and Trust. Every decision made locally. 25 locations in Southeast Louisiana. Online at FABT.com.